Coach, in your mind, just as the season has gone on, what's gone wrong with Orlando City? All the players are there. It seems like there have been good performances, but why haven't the results come?
I think there's been some elements of performances we've been really pleased with. I think there's been some games where we've had factors outside of our control that have played a big factor in games. But I think we need to be a little bit more consistent in the levels of performance and for longer periods. I think when you look at certain aspects, the big moments in games, we've had maybe chances to score, haven't maybe taken them, and then the opposition have had and capitalised on their big moments. So I think, for us it's trying to have a better understanding of consistency and then making sure you capitalise on the big moments in the game. Now if it's the defensive play, we need to make that defensive play, and if it's an attacking play, we need to score. And I think that's something that, for us, we want to be more consistent in the level of the performance, and have, I would say, a higher level of control in games.
What goes into increasing that level of control, increasing that level of consistency? Is it just consistent training?
I think training, I think understanding. I think, again, we've spoken a lot about our defensive transition. I think when you look at, even again against Atlanta, we're in possession of the ball, we're up on the edge of their 18-yard box, we give the ball away, then our transition to defence, we get caught, and then they score. First goal is obviously a mistake, I think, and this has happened as well, where there's been individual maybe errors that have led to goals, and then we've had opportunities against the opposition to maybe capitalise on an error for them, and we haven't maybe been able to do that. So I think when we look across the board, it's trying to get that level of consistency and then capitalise on the big moments in the games.
As the season winds down, do you continue trying to look at players you maybe haven't seen yet, like Josue Coman, Richie Lorea even?
Well, we've seen Josue. I think he started 3 or 4 games. I mean, I think there's players certainly we're going to be intentional about looking at. We look at them regularly in training. I think the level of training dictates for us whether they get some game time. I think training is very important. We analyse training, we watch it back. I think the players are aware of that. So I think the biggest thing for us is trying to establish which players going forward we believe are going to be able to be a part of what we want. And that's something that we've been very intentional about doing in training and have been in games. It's a continual assessment, so nothing really changes from that standpoint.
Has the intensity in training, have you felt, dropped off a little bit as the season has wound down, or are they still coming out as fired up as...
No, I mean, if the intensity starts to drop off in training, we'll just come back out and we'll train again. So there won't be any of that. No, the intensity in training needs to be high. The expectations are the same. We want to win games, and that's been the frustration, is that we haven't won games. I think there's been games we can point and say we were a little unlucky, but at the end of the day, I'm not into that. I want to win games. So I think going forward, we want to make sure that the intensity is right, and that we start to capitalise on the big moments in the games and take opportunities and cut out the silly errors.
Seems like after every home match that we play, you talk about the supporters and how amazing they are.
Yeah.
What is it like for you to come into this situation and see that, no matter what the results, after a season like this, maybe at other clubs the support would have dropped off, but here it hasn't. What's that like for you? Does that provide a motivating factor for you guys?
Oh, huge. I mean, I think you look at the support tonight again. I mean, we've consistently had tremendous support throughout my time here, but even before then, I think when I was away, I was always looking and really impressed and amazed by the level of support, the passion that they show. And it definitely motivates you, and it makes you want to work even harder to bring some success for the supporters, because you see how much they give, and that's something I'm absolutely determined to do, is to make sure that we get the level of success that they deserve.
What are you looking to prepare for Philadelphia?
I mean, obviously they play tonight, so we'll watch that, but we've watched them. We've obviously played them once. I mean, they've got good attacking players, good rotation in the midfield. They try to isolate in the 1v1 areas, so we need to make sure we're on point with that. But equally, we need to do a better job of putting, I would say, our authority on the game. And then, like I've said and repeat myself, but when the big moments arise, we need to make sure that we have the defensive plays nailed down, and then we need to take our chances and score.
They have 2 homegrown, very young center backs. They've kind of relied on this play your kids movement this year. We saw Pierre Da Silva make his season debut last week. Is that something that you kind of want to bring along in your time here to make something like that happen?
Yeah, look, I think as someone who's come through the academy system, I mean, at Stoke I made my debut at 18 and then got into the team regularly at 19. So I think when you come through that system, you definitely have an affinity toward it. So nothing would give me greater pleasure than to see a young player from the academy go and play. We've already started to watch some of the progress of the younger players. We're aware of some of the younger ones that have been involved at national level. So again, for us, whether they're 18, 19, 29, if they're good enough, they're going to play. For me, as long as they can do the things that we want them to do, whether it's a young player and an older player, they're going to play. But I would definitely love the opportunity to be able to say to a young kid, hey, look, we believe you're good enough, go play.
How much has that helped you in terms of just your personal experience, being able to relate to those kind of players, being able to come up through the system? Is that, being able to relate to players and just being able to kind of help them along?
I think obviously you understand the process, you understand what they go through, you understand maybe the nervousness that they can feel when they're training, trying to encourage them. I think the biggest thing for me is if you're a young player, you should be full of enthusiasm. You should be coming here. You should have the highest level of energy on the training field, because you're desperate to actually go and get an opportunity. And I think if that's not the case, then you need to ask the young player, well, why? You should have an abundance of energy. I think then once you have that, then it's the technical aspect and you try to teach. Then the emotional aspect of trying to get them to understand how to manage their emotions in game, in training. So it's a process that obviously, having been through it, I could certainly help. But ultimately, we need the ownership of the individual to really want it and have that hunger to be desperate to go and get into the team. And then once he gets into the team, stay in the team.
How has Sasha Question been coming along in terms of injury? Do you think he'll be ready for Saturday?
I hope. We've been hoping that he was going to be ready for the last little bit, both him and Christian. So I think it's been day to day. From the medical team standpoint, they've been working really hard to try and get them back and get them ready. So our hope is that they're going to be available, but it's been day to day for the last probably 7 days. So hopefully, we'll see.
What's wrong with Christian Higuita? We haven't received any sort of update on whether he's injured.
He got we pushed him pretty hard last week in training. I think because obviously he was suspended, and then I think maybe the Thursday, the Friday, he felt as if his adductor, his hip flexor, wasn't quite right. So I think it's his hip flexor is a little bit sore. Spoke to him again this morning. He feels better. I think he's going to do some running this morning, but he hasn't trained with the team obviously since. Would have been the back end of last week. So for us again, I know he's got a history of adductor injuries. I think it's his hip flexor this time, but again for us, we'll obviously adhere to the medical team and be led by what they believe is correct. But I believe both the guys will be trying to do a form of running today. At what level? I think they're still trying to establish that. So we'll have a better idea probably, I'd say, toward the end of the week as to whether there's an outside chance that they could be involved. But at that point, if we get to Friday and they haven't trained all week, then it becomes really difficult to involve them in the actual starting 11.
The Union will be on shorter rest following their game tonight. Does that change the way you train this week?
No, I think for us it'll be again making sure that we bring the right intensity. I think we've obviously been on the other end of that where we've had short rest, and I think a mentality piece comes into play for sure. But it won't affect our preparation. We should be head down and coming out with a lot of intensity on Saturday.